Now, before I started my through hike of the Pacific Crest Trail, Resupply was an area that I didn't really have much clue about. I had done a little bit of research on it, looked into it, but to me it was a little bit overwhelming, not knowing what to do, how other people do it, and the amount of searches that I did trying to find out some answers was crazy. I spent an unhealthy amount of time researching this subject. Being from the UK, I did not have the luxury of being able to prepare anything in advance or have anyone help me whilst I was out there and send me parcels to different places each week. I was very self-reliant and had to do it all myself whilst out on trail. Not only that, I also follow a vegan diet and also try and be as healthy as possible. So I had a few things going on that made it a little bit more tricky for me than the normal person. Now, I immersed myself in spreadsheets and looked at where I could get resupply from, how far off trail these places would be, what type of food I was getting, opening hours, different strategies, what I could do. It was a little bit mind-boggling, but I managed to condense it all down and it worked for me whilst out on trail. But one little tip: you are out there to experience a bit of freedom and to enjoy it, and I overplanned way too much. I did not need to worry as much as I did about it. I went out there fully prepared, but I think after my first resupply I had it down. I knew what I was doing and it was so straightforward and easy. And if I can do it under those different conditions, then anybody can do it. I'm going to go through in this video a little bit about resupply, what it entails, how to do it, different options, and also go through in detail exactly where I think it might be beneficial for you to send your boxes to, and just other little hints and tips along the way. So I hope you find it useful. I'm also going to do another video that focuses specifically on being vegan on the trail. So I thought this one would be more appropriate to be a bit more generalised, but the next one will be more vegan specific. And that will go into more detail about the types of food I ate and places that I recommend going, and just again a few hints and tips that I found useful along the way. And I just wanted to share this with everybody, so I hope it makes a difference in your planning for your through hike. If you don't know what a resupply is, it's what you need to do when you get to a town to ensure that you've got enough things with you to survive whilst out on trail over the next stretch ahead of you. That includes getting things like your food, your cosmetics such as sunscreen, toothpaste, hand sanitizers, tissues, toilet rolls, wet wipes, any vitamins that you take. I'm trying to think of other things. Anything that you'll need on a day-to-day basis that you will use up and therefore need to replace. It's also things like gear, so you'll need to make sure that you've got gas canister if you're using a stove, and also you might want to change your gear as you go along, such as get warmer gear for when you're going into the Sierra section, and also your snow gear, so things like your crampons or micro spikes, your bear canister, and also your ice axe. So these are all things that will combine to be classed as a resupply. Now, I'm sorry to spoil the myth that you're heading out into the wilderness for 5 or 6 months and not having to deal with chores, people, towns, or the hustle and bustle of crowds. You do have to go into towns and collect things to be able to survive whilst out on the PCT. There are a couple of ways of doing this. You can do it all as you go. So when you get to a town, you can go into a shop, buy everything that you need, or go to a few different shops, sometimes they're spaced out, pop everything in your bag and then head straight back out on trail again. So that's one way of doing it. And then you get to another town and then you go get all your food, all your supplies again, put it in your bag and head out. So you can keep doing that. Another way is to have boxes sent to yourself along the trail, whether that's you sending it in advance or getting somebody at home to do it for you, where you can prepare all your meals, all your food, all your boxes months in advance. And I've seen some crazy pictures of people's garages with all these boxes and all this food laid out before them, and they've been so meticulous and organised with planning everything. And what they do is then get somebody at home to send it to themselves along the trail. So where do you send all these things to? The most popular place is post offices. I had never heard of this option before, and what you do is you send it to yourself as a general delivery. So first of all, you've got to put your own name on the package, not your trail name, and then write that it's for general delivery. You then send it via, what's most popular on trail is a flat rate priority mail service. And what they do is charge you for the box size and not the actual weight. So this seems to be the cheapest way of doing it out on trail. This then gets delivered to a post office within a couple of days on trail, and you go along to that post office and collect your box free of charge, so there's no extra cost for collecting it, and then pop everything in your bag and away you go. Now there are a few disadvantages of this. You are tied to post office hours, and sometimes they are quite limited. And also, if you're arriving in town on a weekend, you might have to then wait till the Monday to collect your box. But there are a few different advantages and disadvantages for this. Another advantage is that you know that it's pretty secure. You've got it somewhere safe where only you can collect it. You have to show ID and then you get your box, and that's how it works. The disadvantage again of this is the fact that you might not want to go into that town, or you might feel like you don't want to wait around for it, and sometimes you do really want that box without having to send it on in advance, because you can bounce boxes. So what you can do is, if you're not going to that post office but you want that box later, you can bounce it free of charge to another post office as long as it's not been opened. But if you need it within a few days, you have to go into that town and make that trip. And sometimes if you're with a group that is not going into that town, you might have to leave them. So that is one thing that's a bit of a shame about going to post offices. I generally found it all okay, and I didn't have too many problems as long as you know in advance the opening hours. Another thing that you can do is get your box sent to stores. So some stores will hold it for you. Some trail angels will hold it for you, and you can also send it to hotels as well. Usually if you're not staying there, you have to pay a fee, but if you are, then it's usually free of charge. And again, some stores might charge you for collecting the box because they're holding it for you. On the box itself, it's really important to put your full name, not your trail name, because you are going to be needing ID to collect that box. And some places you've got to write your name on all four sides of the box, and also put on your estimated arrival collection as well, because you want them to know roughly when you're going to be collecting that box. I did it to myself in one place, and that was in Etna, and I was a little concerned that I was going to miss it, but I'd put my arrival date as the furthest point, so like a month in advance, because they normally hold it for about a month for you. I had gone over that by a week, but because I'd put my arrival date so late, they gave me a bit of leeway by a week or two, which was really generous of them. So it's really important to put that on there as well. There are a lot of advantages for sending the boxes ahead of yourself on trail. First of all, you can eat a lot healthier. You can make home cooked meals, things that you like eating. If there's places where there's very limited options, you know that by having that food in the box, you've got plenty of food to keep you going. There are some places where you're just stuck with ramen noodles or chocolate or things like that, and it's not a good diet. And I think nutrition is really important whilst out on trail to keep you healthy and well, and for you not to get ill. You've also got the convenience of knowing that all your shopping has been done for you. So when you're in town, you can rest more, recuperate and relax. Because having to go around lots of different shops and get all your resupply can be a little bit stressful sometimes, especially if you've had a hard week out on trail. Some places on trail for resupply options were extremely expensive, and generally it wasn't too bad, but there were some places where I spent an awful lot of money resupplying because I had no other choices. And I think unfortunately it can be taken advantage of a little bit in certain towns. But to be fair, there are places on trail where it is expensive for them to get that food to where they are because they're so far off the beaten track, and that is kind of fair enough. But if you want to avoid all those extra costs, it works out a lot cheaper if you can bulk buy before you travel and then send yourself them in boxes. I think in one place I paid up to $4 for a Cliff Bar once, when normally you can get them for about $1, especially if you buy them in bulk. So you can save yourself a lot of money that way. Also, you want to be sending yourself gear. An advantage of sending it in a resupply box is that you're not having to carry it longer than you need it. I saw a lot of people sending themselves fleeces and gloves and things like that for when they'd finished in the desert section. So you're not having to carry as much weight, which takes a whole strain off your back. There are some disadvantages though of sending yourself boxes along the trail. The main one being that you're tied to either opening hours of post offices if you're sending it there, or you're tied to going into particular towns to collect them from stores or from hotels when you might not feel ready to come off trail. You might have enough food and it's lasted you longer and you want to carry on, or you might have had to resupply earlier because you've run out of food. So you're kind of tied a little bit going in and out to collect your boxes. And if you're with a tramley and you don't want to leave them, but they're not stopping where you're wanting to stop, you have to make that choice about, do you leave your box or do you leave your family? So you can lose people along the way just for having to go collect boxes. Another thing is that you can get totally sick of what you have packed yourself in advance. What you're thinking now you might like in a few months' time, after having it for a few months, it might be something that you cannot stand to eat anymore. And this was something that I saw happening a lot. I would literally see hikers getting their resupply box, going straight to a hiker box and pouring half of it straight in because they just couldn't stomach that food. And that is something that occurred, I think, especially after the first couple of months of being out on trail. Also, you do have the disadvantage that you're spending money just to send these boxes to yourself when you could resupply on the way. And most of the time, I think it does work out cheaper to send boxes, but in some places when you send in a box, you also have to pay a collection fee. So if you're collecting it from a store, they might charge between $5 and $10. Some places charge a lot more depending on where they are. And you also have the expense of getting into the town as well to be able to get that box and then get back again. So they are the pros and cons of sending resupply boxes. What I did was a mixture of both. I sent myself a total of 9 boxes whilst out on trail. And no, I didn't have anyone from home sending me anything. I didn't have that luxury, unfortunately. What I had to do was, when I got to the US for the first few days, was go around all the Walmarts, the health food shops, the Whole Foods, anywhere I could go. I got myself all my resupply for the first month. And it was a bit of a crazy shop, I have to admit. Have you ever thought how it feels going out shopping for 1 month when you've got jet lag? It was a little bit crazy, but I managed to do it. And what I did was send myself my first month's worth of boxes. I planned how many days I thought each section would take me, filled the boxes accordingly and sent them along to the places that I thought I would be stopping at to resupply. And it worked extremely well for me, but I did only do it 1 month at a time. First reason being is that post offices only hold your box for about a month, and also I didn't want to be tied after that month. I wanted to kind of go with the flow a little bit and just see how it felt. Because I knew in advance that so many people in previous years have got sick of their food or overplanned or sent things when they didn't need to send things. So I just wanted to try it out for the first month and see how it felt, and it worked really well. I did a bit of a spreadsheet before I went out, and oh my gosh, I spent so much time doing this, planning all the different resupply options and towns, what mile they were at, how far were they all off trail, what kind of food options would I have. I went to town. I spent an unhealthy amount of time looking at resupply options, which is another reason why I'm making this video, to maybe help other people out there that don't have all that time on their hands but want the information in a bit more of a clear and concise way. One thing I didn't want to do is have to go too far off trail, so that was one reason why I was very meticulous. I didn't want to be spending half a day travelling just to get a box or to go somewhere. I wanted to choose places that were easy to get to, and also places where I thought I might be able to get some fresh food as well. So at a cafe where I could get some salad or some vegetables, things like that, and also coffee. Gut hooks is a great tool when out on trail because it shows you what type of stores are in what towns, and the opening hours of post offices, and lots of hikers put comments on there as well explaining where you can get food, where you can go, and different things like that. It is so useful, so I'd highly recommend getting gut hooks for that reason. A little tip is I always kept a shopping list running on my phone in the notes section. So I got into a bit of a groove about what type of foods I wanted to eat and what I wanted to buy. So when I got into towns, I'd already had my shopping list ready before I even got to town, because I knew where I was going next and where I wanted to stop. And I kind of got into a good system of knowing how much I needed for breakfast, how many snacks a day I needed. I also kept a separate note of all the things I might be running out of, such as toothpaste or toilet roll, sunscreen, my vitamins. Another bit of advice is if you're sending yourself food in packages, especially if you're out on trail, take everything out of its boxes, put it into Ziploc bags, or just condense it as much as possible so you can get more food in there. Also, talk to other hikers. I spent a lot of time, I kind of gravitated towards a lot of different people, but usually the vegan eaters, because I wanted to see what they were having. I wasn't very familiar with the foods in America, so it was very useful for me being able to talk to other hikers about what they were doing with their diet. And it's amazing the things that you learn just by watching other people and seeing what they've got in their hiker boxes. Whatever you do not put things in your resupply box that you can easily buy on trail, because you're just wasting space in your boxes. I saw people sending themselves things like ramen or instant mashed potato and things like that, and I just kept thinking, why? You can get it so cheap whilst out on trail, and surely it would be much better to put things in that box that were more useful that you couldn't get on trail. Another thing with resupply is I found that even though I had my resupply box or got things from the shop, always make sure you've got a bit of fresh things to carry out on trail if you don't mind carrying that little bit extra weight. I would take things like bananas or avocados, great big bags of spinach or kale, tofu that was freshly cooked or marinated in something, even things like cheeses and tofurkey. I'd pop all that in my day's worth of food, and it would usually last a couple of days, things like that. I wouldn't recommend cheese in the desert though. It melted quite nasty and got quite sweaty, but most things do last a couple of days if you take care of them. Now what I'm going to do is go through all the different places that I would probably consider sending a resupply box to. I'll say which places I sent my boxes to, because I sent 9 in total to myself. I'll also mention places I wish I had sent a box to, and also other places that you might want to consider that other people send boxes to, which I didn't, but it could be beneficial to you. So I'll go through it in as much detail as possible and explain a few little hints and tips that I found along the way, or information that I've managed to glean. And I couldn't remember it all, so I've got it all written down in a list, so I'll just go through it. I'll also put bits in the description box below, so you're not having to press pause every few seconds on the video. I hope this helps, but I'll try and go through it as clearly as possible. So the first place I sent my box to was Mount Laguna, and that was at mile 43. There's a post office there. It's open on a Monday to Friday between the hours of 12 and 4, and Saturday between 9 and 11. I'm glad I sent a box there because it was my first place and I didn't want to have to worry about shopping somewhere that I wasn't very sure of. There was some limited options there, but again, remember that I am a vegan, so some of these places might be suitable for some people but not for others. But for me, I would definitely recommend sending a box there to start with. The second place was Warner Springs, and that was at mile 110. I sent it to the post office, but you can send it to the community centre that's there as well. That's only about a mile off trail, and they don't charge you, as far as I'm aware, for collecting it from the community centre. You can do a basic resupply there, but I had a little look, bought a few snacks, but it was quite pricey. So I definitely recommend sending one to Warner Springs. The post office is open Monday to Friday, 8 in the morning till 11, and then it reopens at 11:30 till 4, and then on a Saturday it is open between 8 and 1:30 p.m. At mile 454 I sent myself a box, and that was to Agua Dulce. There is no post office in that town anymore. There used to be a few years ago, I believe. So I sent it to somewhere called Hiker Heaven, which is run by some trail angels. This is a mile off trail, but there have been a few changes, so I double checked this year, and I think they are putting their property up for sale, or they're in the process of converting it to some kind of Airbnb or guest lodge or something like that. So it's not going to be free lodgings anymore. I believe it's going to be a place where it's a business. So their website was last updated, I think it was in December, and I'm filming this in February. I couldn't see anything to say if they do or do not accept boxes anymore. There's nothing to say they don't, but please just check on their website if you can send a box there. Mile 703, this is Kennedy Meadows, so the start of the Sierra section, and I did not send myself a resupply package here. I did a full resupply there. I also purchased my bear canister, my ice axe, and I also got a new pair of leggings, and what else did I get there? All my toiletries as well. I would recommend sending something there because it can be quite pricey paying everything at cost. If you've pre-prepared a box and managed to get it a lot cheaper, I'd say it was definitely worth sending. And also, you don't need a brand new bear canister. You can get them secondhand for half the price what I paid, and that would cover your postage costs instantly. Also, on that note, if you are having a bear canister sent here, make sure you fill it full of food, because you do have to pay to collect your packages there. I believe it's $6 per box, but I did manage okay there. So if you don't want to send yourself anything, then don't, but it would probably work out cheaper if you're from the US to send yourself something there. Another popular place that I did not send myself anything was Lone Pine, and that was mile 745. There's a post office there, but it's 24 miles off trail, and I think that's where you have to have your bear canister from, which is why some people leave it. But to me, for those extra 40 miles, it's like 2 days just of not carrying something. I didn't think it was worth it for the amount of distance I would have to travel off trail. But the post office there is open Monday to Friday, 9:30 till 12:30, and then 1:30 till 4:30. Vermilion Valley Resort, which is mile 877 of the PCT. Now, this is 7 miles off the trail, and then you have to get a ferry over to the resort as well. Your ferry round trip is $23. I was not planning on going there. It wasn't somewhere I even thought about going, but I was with a tramily at the time and they had packages. So I thought, right, rather than hike on alone, because we were going through the Sierra, I'll go with them and it'll be a nice day out. But it turned out to be pretty expensive. The ferry itself is $23 for the round trip. To collect a parcel, one parcel, it's $30. And if you don't write your names on all 4 sides, they also charge you an extra $10 on top of that. The food there in the cafe is very expensive. I can't even remember ever paying so much money for a little bit of vegetables and an apple on a plate. They were very, very friendly, don't get me wrong. They were friendly, they were helpful. The store had food for resupply, but it was extremely expensive. And the reason being is that they have to get everything ferried over, so they do charge an awful lot of money for that. They do let you stay on their property though and camp for free, and you can purchase tokens to have showers and things like that. It was a nice experience, doing something a little bit different, but I wouldn't recommend it. I'd just keep going if I was you. The next place is mile 1018, and this is at Kennedy Meadows North. Instead of going there, which is 10 miles off trail, what I decided to do was get a resupply at Sonora Pass, and they deliver directly to the trail. You literally walk up to a car park and there's a man with his van waiting with your box for you of all your food. And you do this online. You have to order a minimum of $50 worth of items, and they are extremely friendly. They had lots of items that weren't available, unfortunately, and because of my dietary restrictions, it meant that I didn't have a great deal amount of choice, but they did have refried beans that were dehydrated, and tortilla wraps, peanut butter, and those types of things. So I was all right. I did do okay there, and it got me through to the next section, but my choices were a little bit limited. But yeah, I can't say anything more about that really. They were extremely friendly, and I'd highly recommend them. They were great. At mile 1198, you have Sierra City. It's not a city. It is not a very nice place. I think out of everywhere on trail, this is one of my worst stops. I did not send myself a package here, and I wish I had. It was quite expensive at the general store, and they were quite rude. They had no basics when I went in, and it's about 2 miles off trail, so I'd highly recommend sending you something to the post office there. It's open Monday to Friday 10 till 2, and then on a Saturday at 10:30 till 12:30, so 10:30 till 12:30. I went to the Red Moose Inn there, which do some great avocado on toast and coffee, which seem to be a staple in most towns. And they used to hold packages for people. I think they still do, but I can't say 100%. But one thing to bear in mind is that they are closed on a Monday and a Tuesday. Now at mile 1289, you've got Belden Town Resort, and I did send myself a parcel. Everyone said that you have a $10 fee for picking it up, but when I picked mine up, he didn't charge me, so I'm not sure if I just slipped through the net or what, but yeah, it's apparently normally $10. I would highly recommend sending yourself something there because it's extremely expensive and very limited options, and the place to eat there is not very nice. But there's somewhere called Caribou Crossroads, which is a couple of miles further down the trail. Well, not down the trail, but down the road somewhere else. And they're really friendly there. They offer food, they do great milkshakes, things like that, and a basic resupply. So you could go down there if you got a bit stuck. At mile 1662, now this is another place that a lot of people recommended going and getting a box sent to, which I never did. I found it was okay. And that was at Syad Valley. The post office there is Monday to Friday 12 till 4 and Saturdays 12 till 1:30. I did a resupply at the general store, and I'm not going to say anything negative about the shop because the guy was so helpful and friendly. They had pancakes opposite in the cafe, but I was at the very end of the season and I think they'd sold out of most of the backpacking type of foods. So it's not, I don't think it's a reflection on the store itself. It was the fact that I was so late, and I think I was one of the last people to go through there. Crater Lake is another popular place to send things. I didn't, and that's in Oregon. That's at mile 1830. You can send things to the post office, which is open Monday to Saturday, 10 AM till 2 PM. But everyone seems to go to Mazama Village Store, which is close to the trail, which is only a mile off trail. And I believe there's limited options. Again, it was all closed when I went through, so I don't have any experience of it. It's just from other hikers that have told me what they were doing. Again, mile 1912 is Shelter Cove Resort in Oregon with minimal supplies. A lot of people recommend getting packages sent there. It's only a mile off trail, but you do have to pay. One person told me $5 and somebody else told me $10 to pick up your parcel. So there is a little bit of a cost for that, but I think in places like that it's pretty pricey because you are looking at resorts and there's nowhere else really to go to. Big Lake Youth Camp in Oregon, which is mile 2002. A lot of people got packages sent there. I never did. Again, I was at the back end of the season when I was in Oregon and I just thought a lot of these places are closed, they're not going to be open, it's not worth it. So I just did long stretches where I went and got off trail, and I actually hitched into Sisters from there. You can hitch into Bend or Sisters and do a full resupply. It's only about, it's not that far off trail and the hitch is pretty easy in that section. Timberline Lodge at mile 2107 is very popular, where people got things sent. Again, I didn't because I just got things from Oregon when I was through there. I think you have to pay between $5 and $10 to collect your parcel there as well. But another option that you can do, I believe it's only $2 on the bus, and what you can do is get a bus to Sandy, and that has a Safeway and a grocery store. So that might be an easier option for you. Cascade Locks. Now I did a flip and drove up to Cascade Locks and did my resupply on the way. But if I hadn't have driven and done a resupply, I would highly recommend getting yourself sent something here because there is limited options in the grocery stores. The post office is open Monday to Friday, 8:30 till 1 PM and then reopens at 2 PM till 5 PM. The next place I got a resupply is in Washington, and that was to Trout Lake, which is mile 2234. Now the store there, they are so friendly, but for me, again, being vegan, limited options, they hold your parcels for free for you, and I'd highly recommend sending yourself something there. It's about 13 miles off trail, but the town is full of trail angels and they have an actual schedule at the trailhead telling you what time they'll be there to pick you up and take you to Trout Lake, because they see so many hikers coming through that they've got this kind of rotational system between the drivers where they'll just come and collect you in the cars and bring you back. It was a great little town. I liked it a lot there. The next place that people have talked about getting resupply sent is White Pass, and that's mile 2303. A lot of people send things to the Cracker Barrel store, which is $5 because there's apparently, again, limited supplies, but I didn't do that. I just kept going and ended up at Snoqualmie Pass, which is mile 2402. I stayed at the Summit Inn, so I sent myself a box there because the post office has got such limited hours. It's only open between 10 and 12, and I just didn't want to get stuck in that town. There's just nothing there. You just want to keep going. I was getting so close to Canada by that point. But I stayed at the Summit Inn, and it was free for me to send a package there and collect it. But if you're not staying there, they do charge you, I believe it's $15. Skycomish and Stevens Pass, I also sent myself a parcel to the post office there. That's Monday to Friday, 11:30 till 3:30. It is 15 miles off trail, so it is a little bit of a stretch, but it's worth it because, again, there's not many places around and you need to get your food. One thing to bear in mind about that post office, they will not bounce boxes. I've had a few hikers say that they tried to ring up the post office or go in and get it sent to another post office. They just don't do it there for some reason. I've not heard of that problem anywhere else on trail, but just there, so it's something to be careful of. Now, the last place I got a box sent was to Thru-hike, and that is 11 miles off trail, and that's at mile 2,574. The post office is open Monday to Friday, 10 till 4, and there is a general store there, but it's extremely expensive and the supplies are quite limited. But it is your last stop before Canada. Now, you have to go to the bakery here. It was absolutely gorgeous. I got a huge salad sandwich, and I don't even know what it was called, but there was some kind of cake thing that was extremely sweet and delicious, and I got that there. So pack up as much as you can from that bakery and just take it to Canada. Just eat along the way. It's highly worth stopping there. There's a little bus that picks you up from the bakery and takes you into Thru-hike and back again as well. So there's a little shuttle service there. So that was all the resupplies. Now, my favourite resupply towns, and this is based on the choices that were available to me and also on cost as well, are the following: Idlewild, Wrightwood, Bishop, Mammoth Lakes, Etna and Ashland. I loved all these towns. There was so much choice, and what I tended to do is when I got to places like this, not only would I get my food ready for the week ahead or however many days I was out on trail, but I'd also plan a month in advance. So I'd look at other places that were coming up that I would need to send myself a resupply package to, and I would double up or triple up on my shopping that week and then go to a post office, fill everything in my box and then send it ahead of time when I got to places like this. It was amazing going into some towns, and they also had like health food shops, so I could go and get vegan protein powder, things like jerky, dehydrated beans, all my vitamins and things like that. There were some great options. I hope you have found this video useful and that you've managed to learn a little bit from my experiences to help you with your resupply strategy. If you knew everything already, then that's great. I'm glad it's going to be reassuring. But trust me, things do work out on trail and it's a lot easier than you think. But after a couple of times of doing it, you become a dab hand at it, and it is extremely simple to do. All it takes is a tiny little bit of planning and just knowing what's ahead of you at all times, and things do just work out. I will do another video, as promised, about being vegan on the trail, so I thought I would keep that separate. That's going to include things like nutrition and health whilst on the trail, things that I did to try and give myself the best chance of staying healthy. I'm also going to go through all the different types of foods that I had whilst out on trail, what was in my resupply, and I'll probably talk quite a lot about the different types of foods I ate whilst in town, because there were some amazing places to eat at, and I'll give you some recommendations as well if that's what you're interested in. But I hope that this has been useful, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye!